Yeah, my name is David Drew. I'm the Member of Parliament for the Stroud constituency, but I've got a long association with Forest Green Rovers. I was chairman and latterly vice chairman. Sadly, I've had to resign from that because of the new job I've got, or the old job I've got back again. But I will retain my interest in the football, and of course we are the Vegan Football Club. They're an interesting club. I mean, they've been interesting even before Del Vince decided to get involved and clearly put a lot of money into the football side. I mean, we are a small club. We will be by far the smallest club ever to get in the Football League. And yes, we're in the Football League this year. I've got to pinch myself to remind myself of that. But, yeah, we are in the Football League. As part of it, Del clearly, as the EcoTricity main person, has seen football as a way in which we can educate people about different ways and different lifestyles, and of course one of those is to look at how people go about their food, their preparation, and also of course what they eat, and veganism is important to that. But that's been part of a much wider environmental message. We've done things with the pitch, we've done things in terms of using solar energy to to heat and light parts of the ground. So this is a big environmental change, and we like to see ourselves as one of the world's leading sporting establishments in terms of the environment, and veganism is of course crucial to that. Well, it's a huge issue, and if we underestimate it, and clearly we think about some of the stuff that Trump's up to, which is deeply worrying, we have got to get climate change back at the top of the agenda. I mean, of course, with the recent general election, it didn't feature because all the usual things came out, Europe, the economy, education, health, but the climate change agenda is absolutely vital, and the way in which we prepare our food and the way in which we link that to the environment is going to be a major way in which developed countries have got to play their part, because it's no good them proselytising developing countries about them being more environmentally aware. We've got to do that in the West. The problem with food is it's distant. It's there on a supermarket shelf. I mean, I've been talking, because I'm now front bench spokesperson on farming and rural for the opposition. So I've been talking, even in the short time I've been promoted to that, I've been talking to farmer organisations and some of those who clearly going to have to drive the change, because whether we like it or not, Brexit will demand a new farming policy, a new food chain initiative. And the biggest problem is trying to get people, particularly in urban areas, to look at what they're eating, where it comes from, is it being sustainably produced. Price is a factor. I've always argued that the sad thing is the price of food is too cheap for people who can afford it because they waste it, and really expensive for people who cannot afford it and they cannot get enough, which is why sadly you've got food banks. So we've got to try and deal with that if you like, that huge quandary, but there are many other aspects to food. It's an interesting area. We've got to make it much more interesting. I mean, back in the 90s I worked with Tim Lang, who's an eminent professor of food, just to try and get food up the agenda in terms of policy. We had no policy. I still don't believe we've got a policy, but at least we're now moving towards a realisation of food is a really key part of the environment. I will try. I am a vegetarian of some 40 years standing, but I've never quite made the transition to veganism, despite Del Vince being one of my best friends, and him obviously making sure my football club lives up to his principles. Yeah, I'll give it a go. I mean, it's just that we've got to make vegan food more readily available, and that's been part of the problem. As a vegetarian 40 years ago, my diet when you went out to eat was chips and a couple of fried eggs. That's all they ever offered you, and that was terrible. Now there's a lot more provision of vegetarian food, so no one can complain about being a vegetarian, not having a good choice. So we've got to just get vegan food to that same position, and then people will give it a go. They're not necessarily going to make the transition straight away, but they give it a go and realise, as people at the football do now, they like the food. they love the food. They eat the food. Now, you know, these are people who eat meat the rest of the week, but they eat vegan food, and though they complained about their choice being taken away, when they got used to it, they said, this is good quality, wholesome food, and we like it.